Rookie 1, come in. Can you hear me? I'm still here, but I'm in bad shape. I can't hold it.
I'm going down!
Eject, kid, eject.
Welcome back to the Retro Room, everybody, and today I've got something special ready. You know how this works. We look back at old and interesting games with the only rule being it has to be at least 10 years old. Back in May, during my extensive retrospective of Star Wars Bounty Hunter, I mentioned that I had a bunch of other Star Wars games I wanted to cover, but I can't do extensive retrospectives on all of them, so today we're pulling a couple off of the shelf here in the Retro Room. Normally, I of course only do one game per video, but today we're covering two games in a series, and that is Star Wars Rebel Assault 1 and 2. Now, I played both of these games as a kid, but it was when I was really young, so I'm excited to get into it and see what kind of memories they trigger. Let's get started. Star Wars Rebel Assault 1 and 2 are both on-the-rails shooters that feel more like arcade games than PC games. Each of them is relatively short and can be beaten in an hour or so if you're pretty good at them, but that's the real trick, isn't it? Being good at them. Because these games are notoriously hard. Well, particularly the first one. Rebel Assault is older than I am and was released for the PC all the way back in 1993 when PCs were still using MS-DOS. So the technical restrictions on what LucasArts were capable of creating were tighter than pretty much any other time in the history of video games. Graphically, they mixed pre-rendered backgrounds with minimal 3D graphics, relying heavily on sprite work. I'm just going to say it up front, this game controls like garbage. I opted to use a controller for this game because the mouse control just does not function properly, although I still used it sometimes depending on the section. The controller isn't much better though, unfortunately. After playing the game for actual hours, I was able to kind of get the movement down a bit better, but the sheer mercilessness of the game's health system matched with the totally unresponsive controls manages to siphon anything even closely approaching fun. And if you run out of lives, you've got to start all the way back at the beginning of the game again. Luckily, the game does have cheats that let you refill your health as you take too much damage, so I was able to actually play through the whole game. And if it wasn't for that, there's no way I'd have gotten through it in anything close to a reasonable time frame. But it also allowed me to play through multiple times in a timely manner. Surprisingly, Rebel Assault lets you choose if you want to play as a male or female main character, which is kinda neat and way ahead of its time. Anyway, let's talk about the story. Rebel Assault 1 and 2 are both part of a self-contained, non-canon what-if scenario of Star Wars. The story and characters are not part of the larger Star Wars Legends lore and only exist in this small what-if story. The first game is essentially a retelling of Episode 4 A New Hope with an element of The Empire Strikes Back added in. The basic premise is, what if Luke Skywalker never left the farm? Then who will take down the Death Star and fight the Empire? Well, in comes our unlikely hero, Rookie 1, a stand-in for the player, I'm assuming. Our adventure starts, of course, on Tatooine. Son of a bitch. Where we embark on a training mission through Beggar's Canyon in a T-16 Skyhopper. This is actually kind of cool. I don't know another game that lets you play as a T-16 like this, much less make the iconic Beggar's Canyon run, so it's pretty neat. Too bad it controls like rocks in a blender, though. Following that, we're flying over the Tatooine surface, shooting target drones in what I think was a big missed opportunity to bullseye womp rats, but whatever. You know, the line. Get it? Also, most of these missions are only like 60 seconds long, only ever occasionally being longer than 3 minutes, but the struggle to not die can make them feel like forever. With training done, we link up with Commander Farrell in an A-Wing, which is kinda cool. I actually really like how they did these animated cutscenes. They've got that old 90s game charm. This character is kind of Han Solo's replacement since there's no Han in this game. So we head into an asteroid field and shoot some ice rocks in space. Thankfully, this mission is a little easier once you get the hang of it. There's a lot of space missions like this, so I probably won't have much to say about a lot of them. We got more training missions left, and so we head to the planet Kalidor. Wait, stop the clip. You mean to tell me there's planets in Star Wars other than Tatooine? Also, this planet looks dope. It's the one from the cover too. I really like the design. Too bad it's stupid difficult. Also, we're introduced to this character whose name I genuinely can't discern.
Rookie 1, welcome to Kalidor.
This is Commander Rumor Lane.
Rumor Lean?
Rumor Lane.
Whatever. We land and have a drink with Room Your Lane as the game shows us a clip of the Tantive Fort getting captured by a Star Destroyer as shown in the 4th movie. Gotta hand it to the devs, the cutscenes and voice acting are impressive by 1993 standards. Now finally, we get to pilot an X-Wing. Rookie 1 and Ruyar Lian fly out to a Star Destroyer by themselves where we have to blow up a bunch of turrets, fight off some TIE fighters, destroy the shield generators, and then fire off a proton torpedo into the bridge of the vessel. You can miss the shot, but if you do, Ruyar Lane comes in and hits it for you anyway.
Now let's get down there and hope we're not too late.
The Imperials then come in and destroy the rebel base located on Tatooine because I hadn't had enough of it yet, and we just decimate these TIE fighters and head out. With the Imperials attacking the Mos Eisley spaceport, I assume searching for the droids, we swoop in and take out literally dozens of AT-STs. Hard to believe, but at least flying around near Mos Eisley like this is pretty cool. This mission is a much needed break from how hard the other ones are. We then chase some TIE fighters back into space and into another asteroid field to take them out. Like I said, there's a lot of filler space missions. Next up, we're on Hoth for some reason. The first Death Star isn't even gone yet. The Battle of Hoth should not be happening, but for some reason, we're hunting probe droids in the Battle of Hoth way before it should actually be happening. I guess it's cool we get to play as a snowspeeder in these caves chasing probe droids. Speaking of, this level is a labyrinth, and you can accidentally get stuck in here for a while if you don't figure out the correct path. Then we get to do the iconic AT-AT Imperial Walker sequence. Yes, it is AT-AT, not AT-AT. You call it an AT-ST, not an AT-EST. So I'm calling it an AT-AT. It's an acronym for All-Terrain Armored Transport anyway. To destroy it, you just shoot it at various weak points until it explodes, and that's that. Next up is where things get interesting. Because although this is almost entirely a vehicle-based Star Wars game, after we get shot down, we have to run through an Imperial base on foot and kill some stormtroopers. Well, isn't this interesting? Got some variety going on. And how much more classic Star Wars can we get than shooting some good old-fashioned stormtroopers? Too bad it sucks. Seriously, this is bad. I can only give this game so much leeway for being 30 years old, which it literally is. I mean, however bad this looks to control, I can assure you it is actually worse. I guess it does look kinda cool though. We fight our way through this ground combat section and get back into an X-Wing to fly off into the 3rd act. We get another space section where we get to fight off some more TIE fighters while protecting an escaping rebel transport, which after knocking that out, we watch the Death Star blow up Alderaan and set course for Yavin 4. Guess that must be a canon event. Then we get the classic scene where the Death Star run is shown and the weaknesses in the exhaust port are explained to the rebel pilots. Except since Luke isn't around, it's up to Rookie 1 to take on the job. Before we can head up to take on the Death Star, however, we gotta fly through another canyon and hit some target drones to sharpen our instincts. Because this game really loves its canyon sequences, and trust me, they're not going anywhere. Then we head up, do another space battle, taking out some TIE fighters, and the coolest part of this level is that when you arrive, the Death Star is pretty far off in the distance, but as you play, it actually gets closer and closer until you beat the level. The remaining missions are all centered around the Death Star itself, starting off with us taking out a bunch of turrets on the surface, and the only other mission in this style, which is interesting. In the first level they introduce us to this kind of top-down shooter style, but we only see 2 instances of it ever occurring. Anyway, before we can hit the trench run, there's a matter of this giant turbo laser that we need to take down. It's similar to the AT-AT run and takes a minute, but once we're through that, we can finally begin our final descent. I mean, it's kinda cool, I'll be honest. Making the Death Star trench run in any capacity is an iconic event, so getting to see it and play through it feels good. As we approach the exhaust port, the events of the movie essentially play out. One of our guys fires off a shot and misses, leaving it up to us with multiple TIE fighters on our tail. That's when Commander Farrell shows up and gets them off our backs in a very Han Solo fashion. And all we have to do is make the shot, which, if you miss, gives you this hysterical ending cutscene.
It's away! Oh no!
The destruction of Yavin left the Alliance helpless against the ruthless power of the Empire. The Death Star continued to extinguish rebel bases throughout the galaxy, and the Alliance was defeated.
Oh no!
Otherwise, we get the torpedo in, destroy the Death Star, and save the galaxy. We even get a little clip of who I think is supposed to be our character going up to receive his award for his courage and accomplishments, even though it's clearly just a repurposed Luke from the movie. And that's Rebel Assault. It's really not a great game, and the fact that it's just a non-canonical retelling of A New Hope means it offers very little to the overall universe as well. So, is it worth playing for yourself? No, it's not. Let me be real here. The gameplay is trash. The story ranges from uninspired to outright non-existent, and there's next to nothing new on offer here. You'd actually be better off just watching the movies with your time than playing this. With all of the fantastic older games out there, this is one to leave on the shelf. So, what about its sequel, Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire? Let's find out. Well, the first thing I noticed about this one is that there's a bigger budget, and the team seemed to have improved their skills. Something else to note is that Rebel Assault 2 actually got a console release on the Sony PlayStation, and I even owned it for a brief time. Would you believe this game had the audacity to ship with 2 discs despite only being roughly an hour long to complete? The reason for this is that it's 50% cutscenes that were filmed in a live-action format on a green screen. Also, the PlayStation port came out a year after the original PC port, so there are some improvements from what I've seen. And when I say 50%, by the way, I mean literally half of this game's hour-long runtime will be spent watching the roughly 30-minute live-action movie play out. These nerds actually made what is essentially a 30-minute Star Wars movie to go with their game, set in their own non-canon universe where their OC, Rookie 1, replaces Luke Skywalker. And they went all out too, putting the characters in movie-accurate outfits, using actual Star Wars props, and even filming in a studio on a green screen. It's impressive, but because of this, Rookie 1 is only playable as a male, unlike the preceding game. So is it at least good? Well, it's better than Rebel Assault 1, that's for damn sure. We actually have a plot this time that's not just a worse ripped-off version of A New Hope, that is, and it's mostly unique to just this game, too. Rebel Assault 2 opens with a couple of rebel pilots patrolling a region of space called the Drayton Triangle, talking about some supposed ghost ships before suddenly they get attacked and destroyed.
Years since the Battle of Drayton. I mean, how can so many different things...
What the? I've been hit! I don't like my feeling!
Jen, what are you doing? I can't hold it! Rebel Control, emergency. We're under attack. Can you read us? Is anybody out there?
Okay, so we're doing a Bermuda Triangle story in Star Wars. I'm game, let's see what's up. Shortly after this opening cutscene, we're reintroduced to Rookie 1, who is this time being portrayed by an actual living human in live action, as he and his commanding officer receive a distress signal from a cargo freighter called the Corellia Star. Also, we're in B-Wings, which is awesome. I love all the different types of starfighters there are in Star Wars, and the B-Wing is so underutilized. They even made the lasers come out in a triangle just like they would from a B-Wing, and it's just so kino. I would say the most impressive part, though, is that it actually controls decently. Like, it doesn't suck. The mouse isn't flying all over the place and making it impossible to play the game. The cursor goes where I'm aiming in what is the biggest improvement to the whole game, because now it's genuinely playable without the use of cheats. Back to the story, our B-Wing gets shot down and we have to eject, which showed me how the B-Wing eject function works for the first time, and that one thing is probably the best contribution to the Star Wars lore these two games will ever offer. So now we're stranded on a desolate planet and wandering to try and find a way off this rock. And the live-action cutscenes finally earn their keep, as we get an on-foot section similar to the first game, except this time it actually works. It's pretty much what it looks like. You get into a room, duck into cover to avoid being shot before peeking out and shooting the troopers as they flood in. Again, I've got to give some more credit because the environment and scenes themselves are actually inspired and good. Like this part where you're shooting at stormtroopers over a monorail system and they fall into the electrified tracks, evaporating them. It's cool. I really enjoyed it. Finally, we stumble upon the ship we got a distress signal from before, the Corellia Star. This part is stupid hard to play on the PC. but I've seen the PS1 footage and the ship is much smaller and easier to control, so it makes way more sense on that one. Not sure why it's so massive on the PC version. This might also be the only time I've seen a YT-1300 Corellian light freighter in Star Wars that wasn't the Millennium Falcon, so that's cool. I also really like the look and style of this pipe tunnel. This is where the game shows us Vader for the first time, as he has a discussion with an Imperial Admiral regarding the Phantom Fighter program.
Your report, Admiral San. I trust the operation is proceeding as planned.
Yes, Lord Vader. The field tests have been completed. In 12 hours, a fleet will stand ready at Imdar Alpha, where they'll be poised to lay waste to the rebels.
Then I will look forward to witnessing our victory. Make way to Imdar Alpha.
As you command, my lord.
That's kind of the plot of this game. It's about these Imperial Phantom Fighters, which essentially are just a type of TIE fighter equipped with cloaking capabilities. And for some reason, Rookie 1 looks like Paul Walker.
I like the tuna here.
Rest in peace. We get to see Vader's capital ship, the Wait, apparently it's called the Terror? Okay, so in this fanfic universe, it's called the Terror for some reason. The plan is for Rookie 1 to link up with a rebel soldier on the forest moon of Imdar. Not Endor, Imdar, which is basically the same thing except a swamp. Following that, our two characters are to board an Imperial shuttle to sneak onto the Imperial capital ship, the Terror, and steal one of the Phantom Fighters from the hangar in order to study it and discover a way to track or fight back against it. Which is just about the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But hey, we do get to fly a TIE fighter as our character practices getting the hang of piloting an Imperial vessel. Next up is our flight to Imdar, where we also get to fly a Y-Wing. Man, this game is just letting us fly all the ships, isn't it? I'm not as big of a fan of the Y-Wing, admittedly, but it's still cool we get to fly it. Eventually, we make our way to Imdar, where we touch down and make contact with the rebel soldier waiting for us there. And hey, it's Rue Merlin again, which apparently is spelled like this. And after looking it up, was actually the real name of the voice actress for her in the first game, and they just carried it over. Anyway, here's the speeder part, which is neat in concept, but doesn't play very well in the game itself. Once again, after watching some footage from the PS1 version, that one plays significantly better than the PC version, and the bike is smaller and totally 3D, unlike here where it's too big and seems to be partially sprite work. Rue Merlin and Rookie 1 then suit up in some Stormtrooper armor and board the Super Star Destroyer, which does offer a pretty cool cutscene of its uncloaking. I really did enjoy the next couple of missions, which depicts our heroes fighting through the ship on foot while donning the iconic white armor, and you can't deny it looks pretty cool. This plays out the same as the first on-foot section did, hiding behind cover to avoid being shot, and peeking out to take aim and kill the opposing troops. The next section continues the on-foot aesthetic, but puts us in first person, letting us see inside of the visor of a stormtrooper using the night vision to defend ourselves. And I gotta admit, I kinda love this. The galactic basic language plastered across the screen, the rifle sprite that looks like they ripped it straight from Dark Forces, the troopers dropping down from above and peeking around corners, you have to admit there's some charm here. Finally, we find a Phantom Fighter and climb aboard to commandeer it and escape the Terror, but not before we get a full escape sequence flying through the inside of the Super Star Destroyer and taking out all kinds of internals in the process. The design of the tunnels and stuff is just really fun. Eventually, we get to what I think is the core of the Terror and blow it to hell before speeding off into space, where we have a sort of final battle against the other Phantom Fighters as we watch the Terror explode in the distance. After destroying the Super Star Destroyer, however, a far more sinister secret is revealed. It was connected to an enormous space station that had been cloaked the whole time. So in one last-ditch effort to put a permanent stop to the Phantom Fighter problem, Rue Merlin takes us into the heart of the space station as we fly straight for the core to blow it up from the inside. It's a cool ending twist, and an enjoyable final run for the game to end on, in my opinion. Barely escaping the explosion with our lives, the space station is destroyed for good, giving the rebels a massive victory. The game then ends on a celebration for the Rebels as Rookie 1 kisses Rue Merlin, and then they express their excitement over the big win. If nothing else, it's a better ending than the previous game. Except, wait.
The rebels have eliminated your invincible fleet.
Yes, my master. The rebels have proven surprisingly clever. But we are not defeated.
So what's gonna happen to our little ghost ship there?
Our engineers are coming to examine it. I assume they'll try to adapt its technology to our own fighters.
And we blew up all their Phantom ships, so...
Right. So for a change, we might have the advantage over the Empire. The next time we go into battle.
Yeah, they sequel bait for a threequel that never came in what might be the first after-credit scene ever in a Star Wars title. Rebel Assault 2 was an improvement on its predecessor in every imaginable way and does manage to offer something of an interesting story to go with its on-the-rails spectacle. But is it worth playing for yourself? Actually, yeah, it might be. If you're a mega Star Wars fan looking for other fun entries into the universe, or if you like rail shooters, this could be worth the hour of your time it would take. Or if you already bought it on sale for like $2 like I did and just want a reason to put some time into it, I'd say Rebel Assault 2 is a decent enough time for a rail shooter to give you a fun arcade vibe with a Star Wars coat of paint. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there's no Tatooine. We did it! We found a Star Wars game that doesn't feature Tatooine. I'm both shocked and elated, even if it has to be this one. At least I know there's one out there. Definitely skip the first one though. Look, I could criticize both games heavily. Even the second one is lackluster when it's at its best, but these games are older than I am. And I mean that literally. It's not super fair to be criticizing them from a modern lens when back then this was about as good as it got. Anyways, thanks for watching guys, as always. Did you enjoy this time capsule of a game? What do you think about the Rebel Assault titles, or just old Star Wars games in general? Let me know some titles you'd like to see me cover here on the Retro Room. I'm always looking for new ones to experience and make a video on, so drop some recommendations below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you love the content, you can support me on Patreon to help keep me alive while I continue to create and generate new content. You can also check out the merch I have available on the channel, as well as my other endeavors such as my Spotify, Twitter, etc., all in my Linktree. Thanks again for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Until then, that's all I've got for you.